I am not.
You're in Carolina at this moment?
Yep. Although I did get a notification this morning that Carolyn and myself, our plane tickets, the schedule has changed a little, but it's so little it doesn't really matter to me.
Okay. I know we're on the same row. I'm just not in between you and Carrie. I decided that would be a little too
Awkward.
yeah. Well, I figured, I wouldn't insert myself there unless circumstances combined and said, would you like to take this seat?
So let me just take this moment to say hello to everyone again. Welcome back to SEO Fight Club. We are doing another Q&A show, so if you want to ask questions or recommend topics, feel free. I recommend that you ask sooner rather than later, because lately we haven't been able to answer all the questions and we've been running long trying to do it. So it's to your advantage to ask earlier, but we'll do the best we can. And with that, I wanted to ask, has anyone here had a chance to play with the Chat GPT integration in Bing directly? I'm still waitlisted on it. So I was wondering, I think I know of one person who's got early access, but anybody else? It sounds like Alexander in our Zoom chat has it, and Manny has it.
Yeah, I'm waitlisted.
Yeah, any initial responses to whether it's more useful or less useful than doing OpenAI's chat interface?
Or how it compares to you.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and okay, so yeah, the initial feedback is that the OpenAI interface is more useful than Bing, which is a little disheartening because the opportunity here is to make the super tool that you engage with to do work instead of browsing the web. And so if they're trying to fit ChatGPT into browsing the web, that's kind of a weird way to go about it. Like, I'd imagine, like in my mind, you would do a search like, SEO tools, and you get back, 100 search results. And then you could ask questions of the search results. Which of these results mention a rank tracking capability? Which of these results have a, 4-star aggregate rating or better? It would be really interesting the more you can ask questions of the result set. Like, they should combine it, a result set into a meta page where it's 100 pages on one, but you can ask questions of it, and they're scoped in this meta context. And it would be akin to saying, using the following text, answer this question, and then you paste in the following text and ChatGPT does its thing. That's kind of the interface I want to have with the content. And so, yeah, I bet there's going to be some developer out there who makes a browser that'll go and fetch the top 100, create the meta document, and then using the meta document, ask questions of the result set to better filter down the results to what you want to get to. And so that thing is the thing I want to get to in a hurry, because that thing is the thing that's useful. Stop having Google curate the top 10 results and start having us refine what we want from the largest possible data sets. And so it takes this problem that we have in search, where Google keeps shrinking the primary index to smaller and smaller evaluated things, and turns it around. Now it's no longer who has the smallest primary index, it's who can give you the most documents that you can refine with your interactive interface. And yeah, I want to see the technology used in a sensible way. But if all it is a way to interact with a featured snippet, I mean, these search companies are out of touch and they're out of their mind if they think we want to interact with a featured snippet. Are you kidding me? No, we want to interact with search. We are the algorithm. They're not the algorithm. We're the algorithm because we know what we want and they don't read our minds. And so they need to figure out that this technology can bridge that gap. What do you think, Lee? What are you looking for out of the search integration?
It's interesting for I think of it in terms of the AI providing a synopsis of things, or like you said, interacting with it. I think it's going to take some time because there's a couple of delicate balancing acts that they have to go through. And we see a lot of this right now in some of the articles that are out there saying, the AI has a personality of X. And I'm like, no, the AI is reflecting the documents that it was trained on. So if you, pull back a search which has, a limited data set, maybe only the top 20 out of the 100 that they show you are really relevant, it's going to show data, it's going to respond to you inaccurately. People are like, it's inaccurate, it's inaccurate. I was like, yes, the corpus that it's trained on is inaccurate. And the search results for most keywords contain inaccuracies that are going to be reflected in ChatGPT or the AI's answer to you. I mean, I'd love that sort of thing where it's like, you also have where there's also the balancing act of different types of people that interact with the SERPs. So if I sit there and say, what's the exchange rate between the dollar and the pound, that snippet which says, 0.6 something, it is perfect because it gives me the answer that I'm looking for quickly. Whereas other people would, want, all right, well, calculate if I have to pay something, it's 15 pounds, how many dollars is it going to cost? Those sort of things. It becomes, you get different searcher types, in other words.
Yeah, or is that the best exchange rate I can get?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have those sort of things. So I think it's going to take some time because there's not going to be, one SERP to rule them all or one integration to rule them all.
Yeah, and this accuracy safety thing is so stupid. Like, I can't believe how people are fixating on it. Are you kidding me? This technology was awesome when it was unrestricted, and it got less good when they started putting in the safety mechanisms. The web was built on this notion that you could build a page on anything. Now, don't do anything illegal because laws still apply. I mean, duh. But, it was this open thing that empowered everyone to use it to do amazing things, to use their creativity, to do incredible things. And did people make mistakes on the web? Yes. Did they need saving from Microsoft? Did Microsoft have to save them? No, let people make mistakes. Let information have problems. Those are things that the world can solve and manage and figure out much better than one organization can do it for the whole world.
Yeah. But what a lot of people are looking for is that sort of interaction that is nicely filtered. So, I see a lot of articles about The AI told me to leave my wife, or the AI, said mean things to me or whatever. I'm like, well, all of those behaviors that the AI is doing are a reflection of its training set. Basically, you're looking for your own utopian training set so that you get the ideal output. And you're assuming the rest of the world wants that too. It's a problem. It's a delicate balancing act.
What they need is an opt-in and an appropriate disclaimer saying, hey, we are not responsible for AI responses. They may be inaccurate, they may be offensive. You might not like what you get. And that's just the risk of working with an AI. This notion that Google and Bing need to protect us from everything that might be upsetting or incorrect is the biggest waste of time and money ever. And not only that, it's making the cool thing suck. And so they kind of need to stop making the cool thing suck. Just give us access to this technology so we can do cool things. And, people keep saying about how Google's Bard AI is so next level. It's not next level until it's in your hands. It's vaporware until they let you use it. And so that's another problem here is they're so worried that they will offend you with an accidental misstep of an AI's response that they can't let you use it. And that's not good.
This is a question Eric asked. He said, so not leaving your wife is utopian. I said, no, I wouldn't say that it's utopian or not. But when you have a training set, if you start to have a relationship with the AI saying, hey, are we friends? Are we this? Are we that? The AI's training set that it's on, friendship type documents are going to include romantic relationships. And within romantic relationships, there is a lot of insecurity stuff. There's good advice, like, 10 steps to keeping the relationship happy, have romantic dates and things like that, get little gifts, surprising little things, all those sort of wonderful things. But there's also, song lyrics, leave him because I'm better for you. And the AI is trained on all that. So the predictions that it makes, the output that it gives is a reflection of those training sets. And sometimes it's going to tell you to leave the other person you're in a relationship with because that's what the training documents have in them. That's a reflection of us as a society, not the AI or not some preference. So to remove those outputs from the AI, you need to remove those training documents from the input. And that's, when you start pulling that stuff, then you're changing a lot of different things.
Yeah, the inputs were web pages prior to some date in 2021. And so everything that the AI tells you is some type of mirror reflection of what the community has been writing. So if the community has been writing, bad advice and inaccurate facts and crappy content, well, the AI is going to parrot some fashion of that back at you. It's literally holding up a social mirror to what's been happening on the web, which most white hat SEOs have been saying, quality content, it's written by humans, we write it so much better than the AI. Well, here's this mirror, and now they're all screaming, oh, you need to fact check that lying mirror. That mirror is nothing but lies, and I'm so much better than this reflection of, what me and my cohort have been doing. And it's just not, it's a really weird dynamic seeing all these people get up in arms about this AI reflection of their spaces. And it's weird that we're also in this like woke container that we need to be protected, from having our feelings hurt, or we might do stupid things with bad data. all these things are true with or without AI. And so this notion that you need a corporation to protect you from hurt feelings or anything like that, it's just silly, and it's gonna fail. Like, that's the part of this whole project that Google's going down, the protecting you from woke hurt feelings. That's gonna be a very problematic thing. Now, should they work on making that better? Sure, by all means. I'm not arguing against that, but how about, instead of gatekeeping groundbreaking technology, why not gain market share by saying, hey, this isn't open to everyone. It's only open to people who understand that the information is potentially inaccurate or insulting. And so as long as you're okay with that, you agree to these agreements and you can use it. We don't need to say, no, you can't have it till next year, when we have our feelings protectors invented and put in place. Like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And people who bypass the feelings protectors are going to get to market sooner, and are going to have people love what they're doing faster, and are going to become totally enthralled with their implementation because they didn't put in the stupid feelings protector to begin with. And so you totally have to look at what they're doing and say, what are you doing? That isn't what we want at all. And so the whole community needs a voice to say, stop doing this stupid thing. Give us the technology, give us API access to it. We're happy to sign an agreement saying we don't mind if it hurts our feelings or gives us bad data.
Yeah. So just to be clear, Ted's not advocating for hurting people's feelings. That's one. But the internet's not a gated community. It's a wide open, there is everything out there. And, trying to go out on the internet and limit your interaction with those things, that's on you, not the technology. It's not its responsibility. Because there are times, we've all done this, where you go search for, I don't know, ice cream or something like that, and you'll click on a weird looking result and boom, there's a porn site, and you're like, woo, and you click off and go back after an hour or two. But then, you're looking at those sort of things happen. You can't be protected. There's no way of protecting you from just interaction with society on the web. So, what Ted's basically saying is, there is a large group of people that want those protections in place. There's a large group of people that said, screw all that, I'll figure out what to click on and click off of, just give it to me.
Yeah. My feelings don't need to be protected by some stupid technology out of corporate America. I can protect my own feelings by choosing who I spend time around, what sources I trust and don't trust. And, but I get it. Not everybody's the same as me, but that's why you just make it a disclaimer with an agreement. Because if you want market share, if you want to win the AI war, then you don't make it based on waiting for the perfect feelings protector. It's a horrible idea they're going down. And I saw a recent video out of Google, and it was basically stating that all of its cool AI things were going to be on Android first and Android only to begin with. And that's dead on arrival. I don't know anybody who only wants it on a phone. If they do that, they've just committed suicide. So as good as you think Bard is, if you're in the Google camp, if it is Android only, you've lost. Nobody wants it there only. People are already excited about OpenAI and their Google Docs. They're already excited about it on their OS, where they can type it in any text field anywhere. And the applications that are being built with it already. People don't want gatekeepers. And so if Google's going to say, no, it's an Android only feature to start, that's a terrible idea. Like, they totally don't understand the early adopter evangelist marketplace. They just don't get it. But all right, end of that rant. Any final thoughts on that?
No, I think we beat that one to death and then burned it.
Had to get it out of my system. And I keep seeing these big companies act like total idiots with these decisions. Like, who's running the show? Why don't they see what the early adopters like and like encourage them to go out and scream about how awesome it is and to do amazing things? Because that's what's happening with all of the AI APIs. When you look at how people use the API access points for artificial intelligence, we got dozens and dozens of new tools and new technologies and new capabilities. And now, like, Bing and Google are worried about the feelings protectors, and they're throwing gatekeepers and limitations on it. And that's totally a mistake. All right, let's look here. I think we have some questions starting up. Let's see. And just for the record, I'm not against all things woke. I'm just against the stupid application of woke for all things. And so, it has a place where it's appropriate, and it also has a place where it's not appropriate. And so I think you need to look at the situations and figure out when it is and when it isn't justified. All right. So let's see. So Terry says our GPS can tell us to turn where there is no road, but we realize that most of the time it works. Yeah, that's right. GPS can say turn left now, and there's nothing to turn left onto. And do you need a corporation to step in and protect you from using your eyes and your driving skills to realize that network latency and data errors happen? So yeah, another case where you don't really need the gatekeeper because we have brains and you need to still use them.
Yeah, another one that was similar to that, my wife was just giggling over to me. Sometimes the GPS will take you on a shortcut, and sometimes that shortcut takes you into a place that you would never have gone through voluntarily. So,
Yeah, there's a comment that says that our outlook is utopian. They don't want to get regulated before they're out of the gate. But the thing is, right now, the protections are out there, that things that are written by the world at large on your platform, as long as you can demonstrate that they came from the world at large, you have legal protections for right now. That's the big thing that they're trying to undo in Congress, because they put those protections to make the internet even possible, because they didn't want it to get stifled with litigation at the onset of the World Wide Web. And so now people are looking to undo that protection, but that protection still currently exists. So now's the time to do it, because now you still have those legal protections. So can that change? Sure, change can happen, but it's never going to get better than it is right now. they're doing these self-inflicted things that aren't even related to law and government. They're saying, no, we as corporate policy need to put in the feelings protector. And that's unnecessary. Nobody's asking for that. Would you pay $10 a month for their feelings protector? Because I wouldn't. I'd rather keep the $10.
There's an interesting thing I saw this weekend. I think it is OpenAI is saying one of the things that they're going to tell people to do is that when you use the content that it generates, you have to have a disclosure statement that it was written by OpenAI or ChatGPT or whatever tool it is to protect the copyright holders for the training set documents, which is an interesting thing. And Honey's like, they want you to self-report that you have generated content, AI content with their tool.
Yeah, that won't happen. All right, here's
Well,
a
she was
problem.
laughing hysterically when she said it.
Here's a problem. You can copyright a collection. You can copyright a list. So even if you can't copyright the individual items on the list, you can copyright a list. But AI can create lists that would potentially be something unique that the world has never seen before, but it can also create lists that have been reinvented millions of times. For example, a list of US state birds sorted alphabetically. I know it's hard to imagine a human being would create such a list and sort it in such a manner. But that list might even also fail AI written detection. So it's like at some point here, we have to recognize that people can invent the same things. They can have the same thoughts. They can happen spontaneous and multiple times and locations. People can invent the same business idea without even knowing of each other, and so at some point, you just have to realize that, yeah, not all thoughts are unique. Probably a vast majority of thoughts are duplicate thoughts.
Yeah, Eric said that AI is the end of intellectual properties. We know it. I think that he may be on to something. I think we've talked about this, that as AI, in order for it to be better, has to have better training sets. Ultimately, it's ownership of the training documents and which models can use and can't use your training set. That's going to be an area of law that gets developed, and entire industries probably that get developed just around that. AI needs good data in order to have good output. So
and yeah, so if you want a crystal ball on where the whole world is going to go in a post AI world, it's probably going to be a syndication world. So if you're really good at sending out the teasers through RSS, but gatekeeping so that people have to visit your site to see the full content, like those skill sets are going to be amazing in an AI web-based world. So you got to think more in line with content syndication schemes where you send out good summaries of what you have, but the details that people need are somehow paywalled or behind a no AI barrier. And so, yeah, if you are killing it at RSS syndication right now, that is a great skill to have right now, like going forward, because that's probably going to transition well into marketing in this type of prompt type of context. All right, so let's see. is buying spam high RD domains useful for lower tiers, like buying 2000 RD SA niche domains and using in tier 3, pointing to clean tier 2, pointing to clean tier 1, pointing to money site. Well, I think tiered link building, just to simplify this, I think tiered link building is a very good practice. In SEO, you should never make a mess you can't clean up. And so if you're going to try to do anything with any amount of scale, you ought to be able to have a plan to undo it or to clean it up. And so if you're going to modify 1,000 articles, make a backup before you modify them so you can undo it. And if you're going to make, 10,000 backlinks from dubious sources, run it through a tier in case it has very bad impact, and then you can undo it. You can break the tier. But usually what we find is, in the current climate, is there are no bad links. There are just links you can use directly and links that must go through an intermediate page. So tiered link building. And so you want to test your sources and build trust with them to figure out if you can use them directly to a money site or if they must go through an intermediate page first. And the general test, the litmus test we use currently, is that if you set up a test domain, so get a $2 domain on $2 hosting and put up a page for a super easy keyword, get it to rank, maybe page 2. That would be great for a super easy keyword. Even page 4. And then you point these new links you plan to get en masse to this new test page. And if the page shoots to the moon and stays there, great. That's relatively trustworthy. If your page vanishes, then that vanished test domain becomes a tier in your tiered link building. So you make it contextual and then you link from it to some other page, and then the authority still passes through. It's still in the link graph. It still can do the work to rank pages. It's just not allowed to rank because of Google's rules. So you test your links and you decide if you trust that source or not. There are a lot of SEOs like Clint Butler and other SEOs who think it is a total waste of time to test your sources. But, I'm still not that brave yet. They're probably right that it's probably to a point where in general, it's hard to inflict harm, at least harder than it used to be. But I still test. I still do small scale. I don't think you need to do, massive numbers for new websites. So if you have a new business or a small business and you're just trying to get a good start, you don't need tens of thousands of links. So usually there's an easier way. Wow, we got a super chat here. Haven't had one of those in many, many months. So thank you for supporting the channel. So Chris says, I'm a web designer in Colorado with one location. I want to rank for cities up to 3 hours away. That's a very large radius, because 3 hours, for most people, that gets you well into the next state over. So competitors have URLs like domain/Denver SEO. Should I have a non-geo service page in my menu, but also city plus service pages? All right. So my initial thoughts on this are that your home page ought to be primarily about brand. You do want service pages. You do want location pages. You probably want to interlink those. What you want to try to avoid primarily, your first order thing is to not overload the homepage. If you try to rank the homepage for 37 different, high competition keywords, that's usually where most of these businesses get into really bad trouble. The next thing is you want to kind of not pigeonhole the whole website design with Cartesian products. So if you have service pages and location pages as a fundamental starting point, that should cover most of your bases. The third thing is when you have a service area that's almost a 200-mile radius, that's an awful lot of municipalities. You're probably looking at the order of like 400 or 500 registered municipalities that are within that radius that you would need pages for. So a radius that big is actually a very huge amount of location pages. So are you actually willing to go anywhere in that radius, or are you only serving major metropolitan areas within that radius? So you'd have to be more specific as to how picky that service area actually is, given all the municipalities in that radius. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of pieces here. One is there's somewhere in the Google documentation that they want your service area not to extend beyond, I think they even defined it as a 2-hour drive. So there's the first problem you're going to run into. The second one is more practical. Most businesses can't rank that have, a number of competitors can't rank outside of about a 25-mile radius from where your business is. So I would just start from where you are, the city you're located in, and continue to add municipalities, in rings going outward until you rank in those rings, and then continue to go outward from there, as opposed to trying to build the one site to rule them all, because it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, and another good starting point is to get comparables. So if you have a grid ranking service where you get ranking grids of how your rankings are over certain proximities, look for businesses that are doing what you want to do. Find some examples of competitors that are doing it right where you're doing it wrong. Because that gives you a starting point. You can look at how they've structured. And in a lot of the places where we start to shift out from the Zoom, so we go from that neighborhood level, how do you rank on your front door? And then we start pulling back the satellite and looking at more and more landscapes. So we get out to the part of the city instead of the specific neighborhood, and then the city and suburbs. The people that are doing well out at the city and suburbs level, usually by that point, they have multiple addresses to pull it off. And so when you start looking at the competition that's doing what you want to do, you'll start to see patterns in what they have that you don't have. And so I would look at that, and one of the considerations for being in 3 different states, if that's what your radius does, might mean having 3 different offices so that you can be in those states. Because it's also common that we see on geographic borders that things just stop ranking at the border. And I would imagine that would be true if you're crossing state lines, and it might be true even when you cross from one city to another. Let's see. So yeah, he specifies 3 cities there. So yeah, I would start with comparables. Find examples of people doing what you want. Doesn't have to be necessarily in your industry, but just, is it possible? First, find comparables, and then, you know, evaluate how they've structured. And my guess is you're going to find people that do things similar, but they probably do it with multiple offices. All right, so let's go back. Is the Google sandbox real? It was, and it isn't now that we're aware of, and it also depends on how you define it. So Google will categorically deny that a sandbox ever existed because they don't have a thing that they would call a sandbox that they put people into. It's not part of their lexicon internally, so they deny it, and they have honesty with that. Now, we as SEOs, we noticed a pattern. We observed with our lying eyes for a long time that when you started a new website, it would take a number of months to get credit for your backlinks. And we could even diagnostically demonstrate it using the links operator, showing you that it took a certain interval of time before you'd have any backlinks appearing for the links operator. And typically the same time your links operator started working, your pages started ranking. So those 2 things would activate at the same time. So we called that period of time where you weren't given credit for your backlinks, we called that the sandbox. And that would be about a 10-month period at its worst, which was years ago. Anymore, this isn't true. The reason we know it isn't true because I can rank a new website #1 on Google in about 3 weeks using Lee Witcher's SEO method that he teaches. And so I've done it numerous times. The most recent time I've done it was October 25th of last year. And by November 18th, I was #1 in Google and Bing. And that method starts off with building links to start. Well, my incarnation of this method. He doesn't teach it that way, but I take his parts and I put them out of order so I can get the fastest possible time. But we know that because of that the sandbox doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't take 10 months for me to rank #1 in Google. I can do it in 3 weeks. For some keywords, not payday loans.
Yeah. And we had one that we did last year that was brand new domain purchased, page put up on it, press release sent out, and it ranked on #1 on Google in 4 hours for keyword. The keyword only had like 600 searches a month, so it's an easy keyword. But if there's a sandbox, that's not possible. So
yeah, so the question, is the sandbox real? It was very real. It was observable, so scientifically observable phenomenon. So absolutely real, despite claims to the contrary, does not currently exist. All right, so old school noob question. I like those. Is there a benefit to adding the website name to the end of the SEO title? Well, branding is actually kind of a thorn in our sides now. So take Sears, the department store, for example. They often have volatility in their search results because of branding inconsistency. They will refer to themselves as Sears.com with a capital S, Sears.com with a lowercase s, Sears capital S, no .com, Sears lowercase s, no .com, Sears capital S, comma, Inc., period, Sears Inc., no comma, no period. They have all these brand presentations, and what Google says is, I'm not sure what the canonical brand of Sears is. I see it all over the website in all these different forms, and then they start split testing brands in your search result presentation. And that causes their rankings, believe it or not, to fluctuate. Sometimes it fluctuates from number 9 to number 9. Other times it'll fluctuate from number 9 to number 90. And it's just, no rhyme or reason, but because they're inconsistently handling that, it causes a volatility problem. So my advice is, when it comes to that branding, it's not what you do, it's how consistent you are and how you do it. You just want to decide once and be super strict about it. What do you think, Lee?
I think it's true. I think it's also where sometimes one of the places where an exact match or partial match domain gets its power from. We know that having, your keyword in your title is a good thing. So the fact that if you got an exact match, and whether you're doing it or Google's doing it, shoving that domain in the title once again, you're getting a bump from it. So I would say it's true of just like Sears, a general brand. But if your brand happens to also be an exact or partial match, you get additional benefit from it there.
And I'll give you a bonus clue for something you didn't even ask. Dynamic text in your titles and dynamic text in your meta descriptions, very bad thing for ranking volatility. So if you have the number of products in your category as part of your title or description, every time you sell out of a product or add a new product, that number changes. And then Google starts split testing the old product count with the new product count in the search result presentation. And it causes your volatility to bounce. And there's no hard and fast rule that Google will use the latest one. And there's no hard and fast rule that Google will use the one that ranks the best. We find that Google often does the worst thing in your interest because they're only after their own KPIs. All right. So let's see. A website is in the health and beauty niche. Throughout the content, we use such statements as X appearance feature is considered to be beautiful, and why not? Is it possible because of that Google may put 30% of our landing pages into crawled, currently not index status? No, I mean, that's kind of boilerplate, and boilerplate is common on all websites, so you shouldn't see a punitive effect from boilerplate text. Your GDPR disclosure, for example, should not be punishing, as silly as those things can be. So yeah, no, if you're having a systematic negative impact effect, I think you have to look more carefully at what's going on. Yeah, systematic site-wide effects tend to hint at an underlying technical SEO problem. I like to look for infinite crawls, server errors, inexplicable 404s with nonsensical URLs, hacking attacks, unauthorized login attempts on the server, You got to start looking around, because there are other ways that Google can be interrupted in the course of its duty, and you got to figure out if you're, contending with one of those interruption sources.
Mhm.
Any thoughts, Carolyn? You're big on forensic SEO. She with us? She might be muted.
I was muted and I was having to answer somebody else's question. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
just asking the question. Somebody saying they're having a lot of difficulty right now getting pages indexed, and they're getting crawled, currently not indexed at scale, lots of pages. And I'm telling them they should probably look for technical SEO causes of that. Any thoughts from your camp?
Yeah, because I see that a lot in pages that, sites that are mass pages where they're very much the same, even though they're changing out the city. I'm also seeing similarly when, like I'm testing between the two different types of primary crawlers in Search Console when it designates desktop or smartphone. And what I see in the desktop designated, compiling data stuff is that it'll show as indexed in Search Console, and it will not be findable out in the, the primary index. And sometimes it could be the content, but sometimes I think there's something broken between the index and the serving system on data that is compiled by desktop crawlers. That's a mouthful to say, and I hope it's a lot of little details, which is kind of where I live in the trying to figure out and parse out what possible reasons could explain that. So then it's kind of like sitting on it and then testing out different things and seeing if which one, come up with a test that tests for which one of those. And the ones we have control over are obviously the ones where our content is the reason. Like if it's too similar to other pages on the site, we can uniqueify a page and see if that changes the result or not.
I like that. I think it's a very good approach to take, some of the low value pages that are in that stuck state and experiment with them. See if there is some behavior you can do on page that gets them out of that state. So you would take 3 or 4 that the company isn't banking on, and you would just run experiments on them to see if adding more unique content, adding more factors, adding some of this, adding some of that. Because if you can find an easy recipe to get these pages unstuck, then you can take that and apply it site-wide. But I would start with experimenting with individual pages and see if you can find a remedy. But also, look long and hard for technical SEO issues, because your type of problem, normally if somebody comes to me with that, it's like, all right, let's maybe look at the web server logs and see what Googlebot is doing. Let's search for our keywords in the index and see if we get unusual URLs in the search results for the website. Let's start looking at, error pages and error logs. Yeah, I usually go technical on that stuff, but definitely try testing unimportant pages to see if there's an easy fix you could apply site-wide. All right. How to find expired domains on a specific topic without obvious topical keywords in the domain name. I'm not the best at that, and I don't know that I have my normal guests who are open about sharing that info here today.
Yeah, the people that I know that do that either they primarily rely on either the keywords in the domain name, or they're watching a brand that's gone out of business or gone into bankruptcy or something like that, where they know that the brand is dropping and it's spot on for their particular industry. As far as, scanning the site to say, that this is on socks or something along those lines, I don't know.
Yeah, I always feel nervous about picking up like a failed business, because those are things that often go to court and the assets go to, people who are owed money. And then they end up having their lawyers come after you for the domain name that they were awarded by a judge. And so it can get ugly in the case of failed businesses. And I would imagine that, being caught up in that, even once makes that kind of not worthwhile. I know there's a lot of people out there doing it who have never been caught. And so, it can go that way, but it can go the other way. So I'd be wary. I know the other thing that people like to do is they like to find time sensitive things that get a lot of press. And so, things like campaigns that lose often had a lot of press leading up to losing, and then they get abandoned quickly. So if you can think in tangents like that, what's going to get a lot of press and then get abandoned quickly, and then you can pick that up. And if it's likely never to be used again, then that's kind of ideal. And so those are the kinds of things that I would look for. But in terms of the legality of, can you use it? Can you co-opt that? You'd want to talk to a lawyer, because that's going to change from location to location. Let's see. All right, so here's a follow-up. In the main menu, would you have non-geo-specific pages like domain web design, domain SEO? Yes, I'd have service pages, and I'd also have service area pages, and I might even have some Cartesian product pages of service and service area. Ultimately, when you start doing the Cartesian thing, you lose control of what page ranks. And so if you really want to control what page ranks, then that complicates things. But as long as you're okay with 8-page ranking, but you don't care which page ranks, then it gets a bit easier. But yeah, I would do a lot of those things.
Yeah,
And
tip I'll give anybody that's in that position is the fastest way to look and learn and see what's working and what's working right now is to go search for locksmith in any of the top 20, 30 cities in the US, and look at the top 3 results that are not, your directories, they're not your Yelps or, anything like that. And as you do this across cities, you'll start to see trends, because locksmith is one of those industries that attracts a lot of SEOs. And you'll see, sort of the site structures and the way that they're able to pull stuff off, and the linking structures that they're able to utilize to rank. So you can just use that as a case study, or a course, if you will, on what techniques are working right now to rank in local.
We have an interesting follow-up question from earlier from Eric. How exactly are you using RSS feeds to increase search rankings? Can't wrap my head around that one. Well, you have to be careful and you have to know what you're doing. And oftentimes it requires some custom development to do it well and to do it right. But the idea of RSS is it's syndication. It's taking the posts you're writing or summaries of the posts you're writing, and it's letting other websites post that content. And the thing about it is that usually results in backlinks. So you turn on RSS syndication and your content goes on thousands of different websites if you're in a popular keyword space, and you get backlinks quickly. The problem is it's all duplicate content. So eventually you would want to turn off syndication and keep the unique content on your own pages, but now your site has all this authority because you syndicated your past content. Unfortunately, people don't use it that way. They set up WordPress out of the box with syndication enabled by default, and they say all these spammy sites are stealing my content. And they're not stealing your content. It's that you don't know how to admin WordPress, so you've been syndicating your content, giving these websites permission to publish what you've been publishing. And so, it's a technical feature that generates backlinks from your content by giving permission to syndicate the content. Now, if you're really clever and technically inclined, you can make it so that the versions of the content you're syndicating are always unique using ChatGPT. You can use a GPT API, rewrite the summary so it's always unique, always different from what I have on my page. And when you do that, when it's always unique syndication, then it can rank in many places and it can link back to you and you can rank independently. So, there are clever tricks you can do with syndication. And one of the things that people also get wrong with RSS is they will syndicate full articles. And you probably don't want to do that. You probably just want to syndicate the summary, not the full article. And that's the type of thing that we need in AI. We want AI to train on our summaries, but people have to visit our page to get the full information. And that's why I say people who are really good at RSS syndication are probably very well positioned for an AI, web, because it's going to become a more syndication-like environment where your information is syndicated, but you need clever ways to gatekeep people coming to get more information back at your website. All right. Any thoughts on RSS, Lee?
No, I think it's, it's limited to people's imaginations as to, what you can use it for. Just, your content is going somewhere. So, you can control. A lot of people have done exploits where they just automatically import those RSS feeds into a bunch of sites that they own. So you automatically get those backlinks, so there's a lot of things that you can do.
All right, let's see. How can I optimize my page perfectly from a TF-IDF point of view? Well, TF-IDF is a ratio. So that's the number of times you're using it on your page, the TF, and the IDF is, all the occurrences on all pages. So, it's kind of what percentage of all mentions of a term are your page's mentions. And what we've found over the years is that IDF is cost prohibitive to calculate for all pages and all keywords. So Google, it looks like from the data when we measure these things and correlate them, that Google just doesn't do the IDF part. So you can reduce it down to focusing on just the TF part of TF IDF, and that gets you a stronger correlation by a lot, by about 40 positions last time I checked. So yeah, focus on the term frequency, but I'll tell you, we've done testing, and the testing in the past, it isn't about the number of keyword occurrences. It actually is about the ratio of keyword occurrences to the overall word count of the page. You can defeat skyscrapers with more keyword dense content. So you don't always have to compete with amount of content. So before you explode the size of your page, remember this: when you make the word count bigger, you're making the amount of tuning you have to do bigger. You're creating more work you're going to have to do. So you might want to keep the page smaller, but be more aggressive with the density and the diversity on those pages. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I always go back to, this is one of the pieces that I always come back to when people posit a theory. There is, how do you know that what would perfect TF IDF be, and how do you know that that's the thing that's going to accomplish the ranking goal I'm assuming that they want? They hear it and they're like, oh, that's the key, but then they go off and spend a lot of time and energy on something that's not going to move the needle much. So, why do you think that's going to work? And I would get some evidence that works, other than people saying, oh, this is what you need to do, because there's a lot of that in this industry.
All right, so we get this other question, kind of e-com related. Do you see in your test the depth of category content as a negative factor in topical authority? Well, I think we're combining a lot of things here. So have I tested category depth in terms of topical authority? No, I have not. So I have to say I don't know there. But do I think that category depth is a negative factor? Yes, I do. Because your homepage tends to have the bulk of your backlinks. So most of your authority is on the homepage, and in my opinion, it feels like you lose about a third of your authority with every layer of linking. So when you have a heavily nested link structure on your web page, below a certain depth, you're not getting any authority boost from the homepage, which is why we can outrank Yelp and Amazon so easily. We don't fear Yelp and Amazon product pages because they are so distant in their category structure from the homepage, is they are just weak, easy pages to beat. And so, yes, your amount of category depth can be a negative factor. Lee, thoughts?
Yeah, just on the counter, it depends on how you define it, because a lot of times category pages rank better because they have more content than the individual product pages. So you've got a couple of different things going on there that both have an impact on rankings.
All right, meta title question for an e-com site. Does it need to exactly match my H1? No, not at all. And can it be something like product keyword, free shipping today, cheapest prices, expert reviews, etc.? Yeah, you can get creative. Keep in mind that on e-com sites, you can rank the page from the supplemental content widgets. So all of your upselling carousels and things like that, your reviews and your frequently asked questions could be the thing that actually ranks the page. Your product name, your product copy, you could probably leave that for CRO. So I kind of like that in a way. And so, yeah, keep in mind that, you have a lot of different ways to rank a page. Anybody that says there's only one way to rank a page doesn't understand the system. There are many, many, many ways to rank a page. All right, so we got another super chat here. No question with the super chat though. All right, let me know, Leon, if there's a question. I'll keep an eye out for it. Let's do a few more. Let's see. If you outsourced link building, who would you hire apart from Clint? Well, I've primarily been focusing on referring domains and white hat press releases, one and done. You're not doing 8, you're not doing 12, you're doing 1 to a strategic page of importance, and you're doing it right. And usually, over the course of a year, if you got to 3 of those, for most niches, you're overpowering your competitors by that point. But for the high competition ones, you have to use more strategy. But in general, for all the mid competition keywords that SEOs compete on referring domains, look for white hat ways to get diversity of referring domains, and that's usually the fast path. All right. Let's see, follow-up question, would AU/keyword/another word/another word be too deep? Yeah, by 3+ linking levels. I don't think the URL structure matters. Like, the URL structure can be whatever you need it to be. But in terms of how one page links to the next level down, and that page links to the next level down. So if your subcategories have subcategories have subcategories, and then products are found, that's a problem. So you'd want to figure out clever ways to short circuit a deep structure. Let's see, what press release service do you recommend? Well, I like Magic PR, I like Press Advantage, I like 38 Digital Marketing. There's a number of them out there, and I recommend that you always have, at least 3 in your pocket, because each one is good for on the ballpark of 500 referring domains. So if you need to address a deficit of 1,500, you would need 1 press release from 3 different providers to have a chance of doing that. See, is that Sergeant Pepper's in the background? Yep, I got Sergeant Pepper's here. It's a collector's limited edition. I've got a James Earl Jones signed Darth Vader. I got all 4 original Ghostbusters autograph. I've got a Favreau signed Baby Yoda. And I'm gonna put up a green lightsaber next. So I got the wall mount for that coming. All right, let me check local chat. See, somebody wants to know if they can talk with me more about RSS. Yeah, we can do that offline. So if I did not get to your question, my apologies. Just keep it in mind for next week, and we'll try again then. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Any final thoughts, Lee?
No, I think it's been a good show.
Any updates from your training? Any fabulous results so far?
Yeah, people are popping really, really quick, and they're surprised about how quickly some of the stuff happens. We had one guy today that for the last year has been stuck on page 3, 4, and he implemented last week's stuff and popped into position 8 today. So he's really excited, and I'm excited for him as well.
That's the thing I like about your training is it's all about you get weekly homework and then you share results with what, result you got with everyone. And it's cool seeing people like get traction and just rise up the rankings, and the excitement builds upon itself. So yeah, kudos for one of the best training programs I've ever seen.
Well, this time actually, the fun thing is I have a site that I'm doing live, so people are going to watch me build it live through the training. And this past week, I issued a press release. The press release is already ranking on page 1, and I don't have WordPress installed on the site that it's linking to yet.
I like that tactic.
I'm using your tactic to see how well it works. I will put some thin content up on it this week, and just
Yeah, if you're interested in Lee's training, it's not for everyone. Lee is looking for SEOs who are in a position to get an immediate ROI based on the knowledge, because his training is not cheap. So it is not for beginners. It is Quora heavy. So if you hate Quora, then it's doubly not for you. But testedseotraining.com, I get no part of it. It is 100% Lee's thing. But yeah, it's amazing. So all right. Take care, everyone. We will see you next week.